Hey everybody, it's me, Coach, here to do some quick little video notes for you for some things for the end of Chapter 7 into Chapter 8. All right, so with all that said and done, let's get going. First and foremost, all right, it's 1783 and we just won the war. So as a colonist, we're no longer the colonists, we beat the British and we are the United States. Now, in any situation like this, it's almost like how when you're young, you want to be away from your parents, you want to have independence, you want to have all this freedom, right? Well, that freedom doesn't come with any money sometimes, right? And that's what the United States is going to walk themselves into. The United States has very little money and very little political structures to be a strong independent country. And so what we're going to talk about is the crisis of the 1780s, all right? So the first major crisis that we're going to deal with is the economic crisis. Now, what happens is this. The British have blockaded the American shoreline, meaning that they put their ships across and Americans can't trade back and forth. So, hey, the United States has always been known up to this point, or the colonies have been known as a place where you grow crops and then you sell them over to Great Britain. And then with that money you make, you buy products and manufactured goods from Great Britain. Well, the United States is going to make these crops, make these cash crops. They won't be able to sell them directly to Great Britain because Great Britain doesn't want the United States to make any money, and they want to starve them out economically. And of course, the British aren't going to bring their goods over either. And if the United States attempts to have the French or trade with the Spanish or someone like that, the British will block them off. So now the United States is going to have to, the merchants in the United States are going to have to deal with being smugglers and things of that nature. So you have that economic crisis. You just don't have the goods and products that you want or that you used to have, right? Also, everything went to the army. When you're fighting a full total war like this, you end up spending money and resources and supplies on the armed forces. At one point, there were more than 300,000 men in the Patriot Army. That is a huge number, a huge percentage of the overall population. And the United States had become pretty much a military state led by George Washington. So now you have this crisis of the blockade, and you also have the crisis of just not having enough financial strength, right? Another thing that we're going to talk about is inflation. Now, what happens with inflation is, like we talked about before, there's so much paper money in the system that paper money loses value. And of course, that hurts everybody, but especially the poor. Because if you only have a certain amount of paper money, and let's say your $100 used to buy two pairs of shoes, and now that $100 cannot buy any pairs of shoes, you're now in a really big bind. In addition to that, what was happening was the banks and the creditors, the people that were looking for people to pay back their loans, would not take the paper money. So let's say I'm a poor farmer who's in debt. Well, great. I have this truckload of paper money that I'm going to pay my debt with. The banks won't take my paper money. They want hard currency. It's called specie. Specie in this case would be hard currency being silver or gold. There's a shortage of silver and gold, but there's an abundance of paper money, and the banks won't take the paper money. So think how crazy that is. You're a farmer. Now you're poor. You're in debt, you owe money, and now the economy is actually depressed and there's no money in the system. So that's what the situation calls for. Now, you have to have some remedies here. So some of the states who are a little bit more radical, their thought process was, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to enact a currency law. These currency laws will make it so that the banks would have to take the paper money and at face value. So if it was $100 at face value, it would have to represent $100. It couldn't be I gave you 100 paper dollars and you only value it at $10, right? Now, of course, many of the bankers and the merchants who were in charge of the political system did not like that. So out of the 13 states at the time, only 7 of those states enacted those type of laws. So it was almost like a toss-up where you actually lived based on what kind of support you would receive. So with all of these wild and crazy things happening, the Virginians come together and say, "Look, we're the biggest state right now, and we have we have the most power, and we have, pretty much the political and military leader, George Washington. So let's get together and let's talk to all the other states, and let's all of us get together and create a Congress to create a new constitution. because the Articles of Confederation did not work. We read about that in chapter 7. They did not work. They did not give enough power to the government to actually enact laws and to actually enforce laws. So, great. We're going to go ahead and have a constitutional convention, and that's in 1786, 1787, right? So, let's talk about some situations here. A lot of us, when we think about U.S. history, you always think about, oh, man, everybody liked everybody and everything was fine. They were, like the states are together, they're a union. And as you can tell, even in today's political system, the states aren't a union. Think about realistically the way we make fun of the South. Like, I'm not trying to be funny about it, or the way we make fun of people who might vote for Donald Trump or for Hillary Clinton in certain places. You think about a state, you think about an idea, you think about a thought process, you think about a financial situation in every state. So you have your own stereotypes, and those stereotypes come from the early days of this process. So what I mean by that is you have a place like Virginia. Virginia's gigantic physical size. Virginia also has the highest population. It makes the most money, and they have the best military leaders. Virginia, realistically, at least in its own art, is like, I don't need Rhode Island. Rhode Island is like a pinky nail, right? Like they're nothing. You know, Virginia is mostly the rest of the hand. So why would Virginia really want to listen to the ideas of Rhode Island, right? And even on the other side of it, why would Rhode Island want to be taken over by Virginia? And in fact, Rhode Island did not come to the Constitutional Convention. They were like, look, we want to do our own thing. We have our own thought processes, and we've always been kind of politically and religiously separate as is, so whatever, right? And that's part of the reason why Rhode Island is called Rhode Island, even though it's not an island and is attached to the country, because it's an island of ideology, right? So Rhode Island doesn't show it. They're like, screw you guys, not coming to the party. All right, fine. So 12 states go to the Constitutional Convention, but they're always bickering and fighting. The first big fight is going to be about, hey, man, how do we get representatives for this new legislature? Because we're going to create a legislature who's going to make laws, right? But how do we do that? What is going to be the thought processes to do that? Well, we're going to talk about two big plans. There's one called the Virginia plan, and of course, that's the big state plan, right? And you're going to talk about another plan called the New Jersey plan, right? So let's talk about the Virginia plan. The Virginia plan is real simple. You, as a state, will get representatives based on your population, meaning that in the legislature, if let's say you have for every 100,000 people, you get one representative. So a state that has 1 million people will have 10 representatives, right? Real simple. What about a state that has, 500,000? Well, they get 5 representatives. The big states obviously will think this is fair. It's just based on pure majority rules and democracy. The laws come from the people who make the laws. It should be based on democracy. It should be based on majority rules. Obviously, that's kind of not going to work, right? Now, the big thing about it is that's not going to work because the small states like New Jersey are going to be like, no, homie, how does that fit for me? I'm a smaller state, but I still want a voice. It's always going to be like, man, if Virginia feels a certain way, then that's what we're all going to do. If Massachusetts, with a big city like Boston, with that big population, feels a certain way, that's what the whole country is going to do. If Pennsylvania, with the cities like Philadelphia, with their big population, if they feel a certain way, that's what the nation is going to do. So is it really going to be the United States of America, or is it going to be the United States of the big-ass states? And that's the question for small population states like Virginia. I'm sorry, I apologize. Small population states like New Jersey. So that's what the New Jersey plan says. So Virginia plan says, let's vote, let's get voting based on population. New Jersey plan says, let's go voting by vote, meaning that every state gets a vote. So if you were to be in a position where you pick the Virginia plan, your population will give you your representatives in Congress. If you pick the New Jersey plan, then of course it's going to be the fact that each state would have one representative. Now, neither one won. There were pros and cons to both sides. And so now the question is, what is going to happen? Well, usually when you have a problem on one side and a problem on the other side, you have this thing called a compromise. So they're going to come together, right? So we're going to talk about this thing called the Great Compromise, okay? And the Great Compromise is what happens is this: it's going to take a piece of the New Jersey plan, and it's going to take a piece of the Virginia plan, and make what we have today. So the Great Compromise, or the Connecticut plan, or Sherman's plan, is what's going to happen. Now, in the Great Compromise, it's super cool. It says, look, we know that we want to be democratic. So we're going to have this thing called the lower house, right? Or the House of Representatives, or Congress. Those are all synonyms. Lower house, House of Representatives, Congress. And in that case, we're going to go pure population numbers, man. Go crazy with your population. So again, we're going to go by percentage of population. It's going to be popular vote. Fine. Then, to incorporate the New Jersey plan, we're going to create this thing called the Senate. And the Senate is going to be smaller. And it's going to be a situation where each state gets 2, no matter what. So teeny tiny ass Rhode Island didn't even show up, gonna get 2. Big old giant Virginia is gonna get 2. And what's gonna happen is the Senate is the higher house. And so when laws are talked about, they're talked about in the lower house in Congress first, and then brought up to the higher house, which is Senate, which seems to, it made some sense to some folks. So that system is called a bicameral legislature. Bi meaning 2, right? Bi meaning 2, and then cameral is a Latin word for chamber or for house. So it's a 2-house legislature. And so the only way laws can get enacted in the United States is to go from the lower house, Congress, based on population, boom, 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 to move up to Senate, which is the upper house, which every state gets 2 reps, and then it goes to the president to be signed. And that's a system we still have today. So, for example, California has 53 electoral college votes and 53 representatives in Congress, in the low house, because we have the biggest population with 40 million, but we only have 2 senators. Just like Rhode Island today still has two senators, even though I think they only have like 2 representatives, all right? So that's what happens. You have a political crisis that is solved through that. Now, we have to talk about some things. Not everybody was excited about this. When in this constitutional convention, there's going to be some people called the Federalists, and the Anti-Federalists. Now, a Federalist in this particular case is someone who believes that power should be in the federal government. And you're probably saying, Aaron, what the heck does that mean? Federal versus any other kind of government. Well, the United States is a federation, meaning that all the states have come together under one umbrella government, under one major government. And the major government that we have right now is Mr. Obama's government, or in a few weeks it'll be either Mrs. Clinton or Mr. Trump's government. But that government in Washington, D.C. is the federal government, the ones who have overarching rules over everything that we do at the larger levels. For example, sometimes you'll be driving down the freeway and you'll see a speed limit sign. Some of those speed limit signs are federal speed limits, meaning that you can't go faster than this anywhere in the United States. And then some of those speed limit signs are local speed limit signs, right? Or, for example, our cops. We have city cops, right? And that's a city government thing. And then we have like the sheriffs from the county. But then also we have the FBI. And the FBI are the cops, or the investigation bureau for the whole country. That's why they're called the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? Now, of course, if you have a federal system, everything's going to go up to the top, go to Washington, D.C., and the states are not going to have as much voice. So the Federalists are like, look, to be a strong country, we need a strong central government. So I want you to think of it this way. Federalism equals strong central government, right? And then some other people, again, are about states' rights. And these people are anti-federalists. The anti-federalists are more in tune with the situation where the states are going to have their own rights. Meaning that, let's say, for example, a state like Virginia is a big, giant farming state. And they're going to want taxes a certain way, or they're going to want to do trade a certain way because they are a farming state. Their big thing, obviously, was tobacco and cash crops. Then you have a state like Massachusetts, which is a shipbuilding and trading state. And they're going to want their trading laws and their economic laws a certain way. Well, they're under one federal government. If the federal government agrees to something that Massachusetts hates, they're going to be very unhappy about that, right? And so that's where the anti-federalists come from. All right, Anti-Federalists are kind of all over the place as far as geographically, but the primary stronghold for Anti-Federalists is actually Virginia. One of the biggest Anti-Federalists in this case is my boy, your boy. Sorry about that, Thomas Jefferson. Another set of Anti-Federalists who are just, it just seems like these guys are always upset about something, are John Hancock and Samuel Adams. They're Anti-Federalists and they're from Massachusetts. So, like I said, the Anti-Federalists come from different parts of the country and from different political and social backgrounds. So Federalists, strong central government, guys like Alexander Hamilton that start everything from the Capitol and out. And then Anti-Federalists are more of a states' rights kind of thing, right? Well, guess what? They start butting heads left and right and arguing and fighting, not physically fighting, I hope not, right? Not physically fighting, but arguing in the Constitutional Convention. And so what happens is, again, there's another compromise. And a big, giant compromise is going to be the Bill of Rights. Now, I know the Bill of Rights like the back of my hand, and you will too, because we're going to take the Bill of Rights quiz soon. Yay, Bill of Rights quiz, right? So anyway, the Bill of Rights is something that the Anti-Federalists said that pretty much if it's not in the Constitution, then we won't sign towards it. We will not ratify or officially put into law the Constitution because we don't want to trade one dictatorship, one tyrant in the name of King George III for another tyrant like George Washington or any of these military leaders or any of these political leaders or any of these states that may take us over. We still want our rights. We left England because we had particular states' rights and personal rights. So in the Bill of Rights, James Madison writes these beautiful 10 bills that says and gives us guarantees for some basic political, social, and human rights. So, for example, in Amendment 1, I think we all know this, we have freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. Now, that doesn't mean, and realistically, it doesn't mean you can say anything you want in your social settings or in your life. So I have students come up to me all the time. I can say what I want. It's a free country. Yeah, it's a free country, and that person on the other side, it is free to say anything back to you that they want or do anything back to you they want. The freedom that you're gaining here is that the government cannot prosecute you. That's what the freedom is. It's not that you're free from people being mad at you or having a problem with you. The basic freedom is that the government, the established government, cannot prosecute you. So, for example, I can write a newspaper article that says, I think President Barack Obama is a terrible bastard. I can, and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to go to jail. Now, someone could write me back and call me names. I could get someone could come back and harm me on a personal level, right? But the government cannot put me in jail for that. There's no law against that. For example, religiously, I'm a Christian. My family's Presbyterian, right? And so I am allowed to be Presbyterian. The government cannot make me go to a public school that teaches or forces or makes me do a religion, period. That's part of this whole thing, the First Amendment. That's why we don't do prayer in school anymore, right? In public schools anymore. You're probably thinking, but I went to St. Ignatius and they did it. Because St. Ignatius is a private school and they can do what they want on that level. But in public school, anything that receives public money, you're going to get your rights represented. So I'm saying all this to say that the Anti-Federalists wanted a blanket or a cushion to get a certain set of rights and freedoms so they felt safe to sign the Constitution. And so it took about 2 years of conventions and back and forth, and by 1789, the Constitution is signed and we officially become a country. So I always go with 1789 is when the United States starts. Some people say 1776 because of independence. Some people say 1783 because the official end of the Revolutionary War. But I believe that when we signed the Constitution in 1789 and the Anti-Federalists and the Federalists come together for a brief moment of time and have that compromise, that's it. All right. So that's today's video. I'm going to give you some more stuff later. Sorry it ran a little long. Peace in the Middle East.